This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on new education policy. The participants are Dr. J.S. Rajput, educationist, and AIR Special Correspondent Mattu J.P. Singh.
President Ramnath Kovind, while addressing the inaugural session of the Governors' Conference on National Education Policy, said the new education policy gives top priority to provide basic literacy and numeracy to all children at primary school level by the year 2025. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the new education policy and said that it will change the one-size-fits-all theory of earlier education policies. He said the new education policy will prepare Indian youth for new challenges in the ever-evolving sphere of employment and jobs. Dr. Rajput, the importance of the policy has been emphasized by both the President and the Prime Minister. How do you see this policy bringing about a paradigm shift in education sector?
In their occasion, when the President and the Prime Minister and all the governors talked to each other on the new national education policy, I was thrilled by the fact that education is getting the importance it deserves. Normally, it should have deserved all along. This particular policy, it was pointed out by the Prime Minister, has a universal acceptance in the country. And this is because it has the force of unique consultations that were held throughout the nation, and every sector of the community has participated. There were two committees. One was headed by Shri T.S.R. Subramaniam, other by Professor Kasturi Rangan, which finalized the whole thing. I had the privilege of being the member of the T.S.R. Subramaniam committee, and I had seen how lakhs and lakhs of inputs came. Now, the policy has come in a manner that I, someone who has spent more than 4 decades in the field of education, I find it's a great attempt to link Indians to India and also to give them a perceptions and readiness for their international role. All of us have read how Indian education was demolished. Our system was demolished during the British period, and they had one single objective: to link Indians from India, from their culture, history and heritage. Now, for the first time, the importance of the Indian tradition of knowledge quest, knowledge creation, knowledge generation, knowledge dissemination, and most importantly, knowledge utilization have been realized. It has been mentioned, and at the same time, it is also evident what Mahatma Gandhi has said much earlier, that I will keep my windows and doors open to get fresh air. That is new ideas from everywhere. But it should not blow away my own house. UNESCO had appointed a commission in 1995 and 96. It gave a report, and in that report they had proposed, they had tried to perceive the shape of education in 21st century. It was a very huge report, very well discussed throughout the world, and when it was released, I was present. One of the sentences with the chairperson, Mr. Jacques Delors, spoke was, and it still reverberates in my mind, is education in every country must be rooted to culture, committed to progress. I find this particular policy talks about culture, history and heritage. It talks about the knowledge. It talks about how a knowledge hub would be created in Indian higher education system that would attract young learners from everywhere, number one. And our people who have gone outside, more and more would be required in such aging societies, which shall also be prepared for the international arena. Our young persons will be also ready for the national arena, national requirements. And at the same time, this policy would be meeting the aspirations and expectations of the generations ahead. I am fully convinced. And you know, one thing that was highlighted, both the Honorable Prime Minister and our Honorable President, was about teachers. Both of them emphasized that for the first time we have realized that teacher preparation is a very serious business. And 4-year integrated courses have been recommended. And most of the teachers by 2030, practically all teachers will have to go through this process after +2, after 12 years schooling, 4-year integrated courses. I have headed an institute of the NCERT for 11 years where we were conducting 4-year programs. And in India, it is now very well established that products of those 4 regional institutes of education of the NCERT have proved their worth. They are much better than those who come after B.Ed of 1 year. Or in 1999, as a chairman of NCT, I had proposed, and as director of the NCERT, I had introduced in these institutions 2-year B.Ed course. Its importance also has been recognized for the first time. And I think this would really transform the education scenario in this country in terms of quality, skill acquisition and vocationalization of education.
Moving forward, Prime Minister said indulgence of teachers, parents and students in the implementation of the policy will make it more relevant and broad-based. He asserted that the policy focuses on learning rather than study and enhances critical thinking in students. How do you think this policy will bring about a change in our current learning process, which lays emphasis on rote learning and memorizing, then actually understanding and knowing?
There are 3-4 aspects that one should examine in the policy. One, does the policy really attempt to understand the learner, his expectations, his stages of development, his aspirations, his capabilities and capacities? This policy does. It reduces the curriculum load, it transforms the assessment systems and utilization of knowledge, not a rote learning and answering a question exactly as it is given in the textbook in the final board examination. This practice will go and this will reduce tremendously the strain and strain that the child suffers throughout the schooling period. Now, the emphasis on board examinations will be diluted. Most of the assessment would be based upon how the knowledge you have acquired, you are able to utilize. Now, in this process, what happens? I am very fond of repeating what Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore has said about education. He said there are 2 boons which every child gets from the moment he is born. The 2 boons are power of ideas, power of imagination. I, as a teacher and teacher educator, find that this particular policy accepts these 2 ideas, and it also accepts the responsibility that this power of ideas and power of imagination should not be impeded. It should not be restricted. And there the role of parents comes, the role of society comes, and the role of teachers comes very prominently. At present, if you want to study science, you cannot study music. If you want to study liberal areas, you cannot have physics and optional. This particular policy does away with all this, which means the child will recognize his own talent and will make his own choice. This will be a revolutionary step, and it has the potential to enhance the cognitive capital of India by several fold. This is what many countries have done. If I want to study my mathematics and music, if I want to study my biology with painting, I would be allowed that. It may take time in bringing it to practice, but this is something which will also allow ideas to flourish. It will allow full scope to imagination. And when this is allowed in a policy, it means it permits full play to curiosity of the child and creativity of the child. If you go through the policy, everywhere you will find somewhere in some way they are trying to augment this whole thing. This is the beauty of this policy, and that makes someone like me very optimistic because, as I said earlier, it has a universal acceptance, and the Honorable Prime Minister was very clear. He said they feel this is their policy. People have given their ideas. They find a reflection of their ideas on one side, and then on the other side, it is based upon very sound educational philosophy, which is rooted to culture. Now, for teachers, for example, what we have done, Swami Vivekananda has said, education is manifestation of perfection already within man. And what UNESCO report says, learning the treasure within. All learning is inside the person. He can go to any level, any highest level. And therefore, the job of the teacher, who should be a very knowledgeable person, very professionally prepared person, is to help the person in discovering this talent. The treasure is within me. Somebody helps me to discover my talents, and there is no limit to learning. This also comes in this particular policy. This particular term, which has become practical term, not a cliche, there are no limits to learning. And there you go to higher education and you think of innovations and new ideas, new researches, that is creation and generation of knowledge. And in India, there is also something which you can find through the policy. Our knowledge quest was always for the welfare of others. Sarv bhuti terata. In the service of mankind, in the welfare of everyone. And this is only India could claim that this is the philosophy we had. We never had knowledge for commercial purposes. Now, whole world would like to understand this, and if our young persons understand this, we have done a lot in past, but now we shall be increasing our presence in the cognitive world manifold in near future.
This brings me to another question, and as Prime Minister had also pointed out, that passion, practicality and performance rather than to process will help in research and innovation. Coming to another aspect of this policy is that it gives importance to skill development among students. What role can it play in encouraging self-reliance or Atmanirbharta?
If you go back a bit, before independence, our leaders of the independence struggle movement were very particular about education. And Mahatma Gandhi had even experimented and made a proposition that education must bring out the best out of body, mind and spirit. His ideas on education are well known. He believed in beginning education with working with hands. Now, in the new policy, two very important things have happened. One, we have realized that education does not necessarily begin from 5 years to 14 years that we had put in the constitution. These years 3, 4 and 5, these years are very important for the development of the child, and for the first time they have been included in our policy as the responsibility of the nation. Now the school education will practically extend from 3 years plus to 18 years. What Gandhiji has pointed out in terms of working with hands, we did not give that much focus as we should have after independence. And the consequences of neglecting it and focusing only on the mental alertness, that is head part of the trio, head, hand and heart, now it is before us. We have a huge number of graduates, postgraduates, who have not acquired any skills which could give them self-confidence and could also help them earning a livelihood. Now this skill development, after our Prime Minister came into power, he created a Ministry of School Development, and I think the churning has been going on. This particular aspect was very much in our consultation process in committees, and it has been finalized that there are two things which will happen. One, the distinction between curricular and co-curricular has been abolished. This is a very positive sign. Many people may not have realized its importance. And that preparing children for vocationalization will begin right from class 6. They will gradually understand this. You know, there is a small provision, 10 days bagless internship with a worker in some place where things are being produced. It will make a big difference. The learner will understand the importance of being a karigar, importance of being an artisan, importance of being a painter, importance of being a farmer, importance of being a barber. These are very important things. Once you know the importance of the skill, the mutual respect in society will increase. The quotient of social cohesion will increase. And now we often say, and it was said earlier also, even Gandhiji's time, that by reading the English books, you move away from the common man of the India. Now this will not happen. Once the child, everywhere, whether it's rural area, urban area, they interact in this manner. Be with a karigar for 10 days. You will know what are the social implications of education, what are your obligations to the society, how you shall be learning certain skills and improving upon skills. Now, for example, the issue of toys being made in India, why China has progressed? Because there most of the population has acquired skills. They can refine skills. This is one aspect. The other aspect, which our higher education has taken note of, there would be researches in higher education. There would be innovations higher education, say on toys. How the price can be reduced, how the multiplicity can be enhanced, how the interest of the child can also be gauged, assessed and converted into a toy. All these things are clear-cut possibilities in this policy. And because of these finer aspects, it took more than 4 years to bring out a national policy on education. And therefore, this aspect of skill development, the issue of vocationalization has assimilated very clearly, very comprehensively in the new education policy. I am sure these will also transform the curricula and syllabi of the teacher education program, because when the teacher acquires certain skills of working with hands and also other skills now, many skills have come up, and he appreciates the value of the karigar, the skilled worker. I have seen this in China. Some 35 years ago, this is my experience after my visit to primary schools there. What I inferred was that China implemented vision of Mahatma Gandhi in its schools. And the benefits are known now. The number of skilled workers in China, the percentage may be about 65 to 75. And therefore, in villages they produce. Everybody is busy in something or other. We hope this transformation will bring back our gratitude to Mahatma Gandhi and also the vision of the present Prime Minister.
To summarize in words of Prime Minister, who said India has been an ancient center of learning and the new policy will help in making it a hub of knowledge economy in the 21st century. Thank you, Dr. Rajput, for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on new education policy. The participants were Dr. J.S. Rajput, Educationist and AIR Special Correspondent, Mattu J.P. Singh. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.